Hey team, how you doing? Have a wee bit of a different setup today because I'm actually attempting, believe it or not, to record this Q&A myself. I actually have a recording device, which is just my iPhone, sitting here recording on the side. So I'm going to attempt to record this Q&A and then we're going to chop it up into kind of content for YouTube and Instagram and different stuff like that. So I kind of set up a wee makeshift studio here. I would actually show it to you, but I kind of don't want to disturb my setup. So if anyone's interested, I'll post some pictures in the group. But I have a great big circle light in front of me, and then I have my wall here backlit. You can probably see the reflection in the picture frames, but I'm going to try this setup and see how it goes. And yeah, let's just rock on with the questions. So I actually have saved the questions today here on my computer. Here's a really good tip for you. Did you know that you can actually send questions to yourself on WhatsApp? A lot of people don't know that you can send stuff to yourself on WhatsApp. So if you just search your own name, you can send stuff to yourself. And that's a great way that I actually save a lot of stuff or save links and stuff. I just send them to myself on WhatsApp. So that's what I've done with the questions. How many questions have I chosen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. So we're probably going to go for just under an hour. And let's get going with the first question. So first question comes from Brooke Glenn Rindles. And Brooke says, what were your 3 biggest mistakes or learning moments that stalled growth? Essentially, what are 3 pointers for newbies? Okay, do you know what? Probably should have prepared the questions first, actually, because then I could have thought of them. Let me see if I can think of 3 off the top of my head. So probably the first thing that people do wrong, that I did wrong, is trying to diversify into too many different markets. So I remember whenever the Sculpted Vegan started going really well, and we started making a lot of money, and we started doing millions every year and releasing loads of programs. And then, of course, I did what it seems that every entrepreneur does, which is they go, oh, right, well, Sculpted Vegan's successful, so maybe now I can, try adding to the Sculpted Vegan. So I had all of these different ideas where, we were going to start a whole apparel range. I got really excited once about a pair of leggings that I saw. And actually, do you know what's really funny? They ended up being what are known as the TikTok leggings. So the TikTok leggings, actually, I saw on a friend of mine, and she had bought them somewhere. And I was like, oh my God, those make her ass look absolutely amazing. And I just knew that they would take off. And so I was like, I'm going to market the TikTok legging. I'm going to get them manufactured. I'm going to start a whole range of apparel. I even went so far as like meeting a company in London, and I really did go quite far with our apparel range, but in the end, I decided not to go ahead with it because I'll tell you actually why I decided not to go ahead with it, because I had interviewed Alex Hormozy at the time for my podcast. And at the end of the podcast, I was telling him that, we were going to diversify into apparel, and we were going to go into supplements, and we were going to go into, I can't even remember, there's something else as well. And he said at the end of the podcast, can I give you a bit of advice? And I said, sure. And he said, don't do it. And I was like, don't do what? And he said, don't diversify into different products. He said, stick with your one core product, stick with the Sculpted Vegan, and make it absolutely phenomenal, but don't diversify into different products. And I was like, why not? And he said, we did it with our different companies. He said, we did it with Alan. I did the same as you. We had Gym Launch. It was doing so well. And then I went into software, and then I went into supplements. And he said, those companies ended up making a lot of money, but it actually just diversified my focus away from what was important, which was Gym Launch. He said, a billionaire at the time gave me the advice. I can't remember whether he said it was too late, whether he got the advice after he had already started the other companies. But he said, if I can give you any advice, it is don't do it. And so I was like, okay. And actually, I trust Alex Hormozy a lot. And so I didn't do it. This was several years ago. This was in like 2019, I think it was, before Alex had kind of really become very well known online. And so 2020. So anyway, I ended up following his advice, and I didn't do the apparel, and I didn't do the supplements, and I didn't do all of the protein powder was another one we were going to do. I didn't do any of that. And actually, we just focused on making the Sculpted Vegan amazing. So one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you is don't diversify your focus. A lot of entrepreneurs are really a lot of entrepreneurs are really, do you know what? I've actually just realized I forgot to hit record on the other camera. Hang on, I'm going to do that now. And it's just turned on a recording light, which I really don't want. And I don't know. Well, you know what? I'm just going to keep it on anyway. Who cares? So what was I saying? A lot of entrepreneurs are multi-talented, right? And if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably multi-talented. You probably have a lot of talents in a lot of different areas. And you don't want to limit yourself, I guess, by just choosing one path. And I am a very talented person, modest as well, clearly. But no, I would consider myself a very talented person. I have a lot of different interests. And over the years, I'm like, oh, I would love to start a business in horses. I would love to start a business, in supplements. I want to start a protein company. I want to do all these different things. But ultimately, whenever you diversify your focus, that's whenever you lose focus. And whenever you lose focus, you can't be as successful as you can be. Now, I am launching an app called Only Fitness, which is not the Sculpted Vegan, but I do intend for Only Fitness to take over the Sculpted Vegan. And it's kind of genius the way I've done it, because I'm actually going to move my whole business over to the app Only Fitness. Only Fitness is a social marketplace for the fitness industry. It's basically like Instagram, except you can choose to have your posts and your PDFs and your pictures and everything up there for free. You can charge for them individually, or you can charge a subscription to your Only Fitness channel. So it's for anyone in the fitness industry that wants to create a business online, and it's completely free to use, completely free in every way. We only make money when you do. So we charge a percentage, and we also have an advertising platform on there. It's launching in June this year. It's taken me 2.5 years and several million to build. But that is what we're doing this year. But I would never have done that if I didn't see the opportunity that Only Fitness was going to be a $1 billion business. And that's the honest to God's truth. Only Fitness, it has the potential, because of the way it's been built, to be a $1 billion business. That's the only reason I would have diversified. Otherwise, I would have just stayed with the Sculpted Vegan. Now, if Only Fitness doesn't do what we think it's going to do, then I will simply go back to working on the Sculpted Vegan, and I have ideas for how I can grow it. We want to do like a certify PTs. We want to have like a coaching certification program within the Sculpted Vegan, certified coaches. Whenever you're selling business to business rather than business to customer, you have a massive opportunity to make more money. And so that is a really lucrative business model that we actually do plan on pursuing at some point, but Only Fitness is where my focus is going to go once it launches in June. So first piece of advice, I have to see if I can think of any more, is don't diversify your business. If I can give you any advice in business, it's choose one thing and become an absolute master at it. And only when you sell that company, you sell that business, or you find an idea which literally could make you $1 billion, that's the only way that you would change. Now, what other pieces of advice? Okay, second piece of advice that I would give would be, once you've created your product and made it as good as it can be, focus all of your attention on marketing. What a lot of people do once they've created a really good product is they sell it, they release it to their list, or maybe they release it to their following, or they run some Facebook ads to it. And so they sell it, and they sell it moderately well. But then rather than focusing on finding more customers for their product, they focus on making a new product once the sales for that product have dried up. If you want to be successful in business, you have to learn marketing. You have to. Now, if you are phenomenal at thinking up new product ideas as well as phenomenal at marketing, then you have the golden ticket. But marketing truly is where the magic lies. Too many people don't spend enough time learning how to sell. If you want to be successful, you have to learn how to sell. There's really no other way to do it. And I remember speaking to a girl years ago who was a fitness influencer, and she was telling me about a program that she had created. She had quite a big following online, and she recorded this program and she released the program to her followers. And she made like £15,000 or something in releasing this program to her followers. And she was absolutely delighted with that. And so I said to her, what are you gonna do now? Meaning, like, what sales strategy are you gonna use now? And she said, oh, I'm going to create, the name of the program #2. And I said, let's call it Beachbody. She said, I'm going to create Beachbody 2. And I said, why are you going to do that? And she said, well, because, I've already created Beachbody 1. And so now it's time to create Beachbody 2. And I said, well, why would you create Beachbody 2? Why would you not just find more customers for Beachbody 1? And she said, oh, because like, my audience and my network have already purchased it. So it's time to make another one. And that was very, very, very small thinking, because she wasn't thinking any further than her current audience. She wasn't thinking any further than the people who followed her on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever it was. That's all she was thinking of in terms of her customer base. She wasn't thinking any wider. But if it was indeed a cracking program, and I'm not sure if it was or not, she should have then focused all of her efforts into marketing it. You take the likes of, say, Amy Porterfield, good friend of mine. Amy has a course called Digital Course Academy, and that is her flagship program. Same as Marie Forleo, who has B School. They sell that program year after year after year after year. Marie Forleo's B School has been going since I started on the internet, which was in 2011. So I don't know when she first launched it, but I remember that she was promoting it in 2011. This is now 2024. That's 13 years, and I'm sure she was going before that. Marie Forleo has literally sold B School every single year for the last at least 13 years. Same as Amy Porterfield. I heard this year that Amy has surpassed $100 million now in her business, which means in the entire time she's been in business, she's done more than $100 million in revenue. I'm sure she has more than one program. In fact, I know she does, but she has one flagship program. She doesn't create all newfangled ways of making money. She just sticks with one program and she sells it again and again and again. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, but hang on a second, Kim. You create constant new programs. You're constantly putting out new shreds, new competitions. Why do you not just focus on one signature program? Well, the answer is I used to years ago. So whenever I first started, I had the Sculpted Vegan 12-month program. Then I created the 18-month Sculpt and Shred, and that was a $1,500 program, and that was our flagship program. But whenever then I got the idea for Only Fitness 2 years ago, I realized that I needed to make as much money as quickly as possible. And what made as much money as quickly as possible was shred programs, was running shred competitions with a high prize fund, with a big prize fund at the end to keep people motivated. So because I needed to make the money to build Only Fitness, I made a strategic business decision to put my efforts where it would make the most money. I sacrificed some of the long-term growth and sustainability of the company to put all my efforts into creating shred programs in order to pay for Only Fitness. Now, is this strategy going to pay off? I don't know. But basically, whenever I first started the Sculpted Vegan, I created a company called Yoga Talks to pay for the Sculpted Vegan. So that's called a cash cow. So I actually started a company called Yoga Talks. I then I ran workshops twice a month for 60 people, and I sold an online program. I made about £5,000, which is about $7,000 a month, right? I was a stay-at-home mum. I was a yoga teacher, and I made about £7,000 a month, $7,000 a month. I used most of that money to pay for the creation of the Sculpted Vegan, to pay for my design, to pay for my Facebook ads, to pay for everything to get the program up and running. That's what I used the money for. So I created a cash cow called Yoga Talks to pay for the Sculpted Vegan, right? With the Sculpted Vegan, I knew it was never going to make me $1 billion, and that's my goal, is to be a billionaire by the time I'm 50, and I've got 5 years to do it. My goal for the Sculpted, my goal has always been to be a billionaire, and I realized the Sculpted Vegan business model was never going to make me hundreds of millions, or $1 billion preferably. And so I began to I'm always looking for opportunity, and I saw the opportunity to create this model of Only Fitness, and we've coded the entire thing from scratch ourselves. We haven't actually hired an outside company, which is crucial whenever you're building an app. And I saw this opportunity for Only Fitness, and so I created the Sculpted Vegan as a cash cow in order to pay for Only Fitness. So I have always had a really long-term view, and I know I'm getting way off the question here, but I've always had a really, really long-term view of where I'm going. But the one thing that's enabled me to be successful, and the one piece of advice I would give to anybody whenever, I think the question was, what mistakes did you make that you could advise a newbie in business not to do? The second mistake is people don't learn to sell. Okay. The reason why I was able to make the Sculpted Vegan super successful is because I learned how to sell. How do you learn how to sell? You read books, you watch seminars, you watch webinars, you study people, you study human behavior, you study yourself. You become so passionate about what it is that you're selling and what it is that you're promoting that people stop to listen to you just because you're so passionate. I used to have people say, whenever I used to sell things years ago, I used to sell these human potential programs. People used to come to them and used to stand up and introduce themselves. Everyone went around and introduced themselves at the start of the program, and they used to say, hi, my name is Bob, and I'm here because of Kim Constable. And genuinely, I have absolutely no idea what this is. But when I met Kim, she was so enthusiastic and so excited, and it just sounded so amazing that I just thought, for sure, I want some of what she's got. So hell, I'm here. And so people used to enroll literally because of me. So you have to remember that when you sell, people quite often don't become enrolled in what it is you're selling. They become enrolled in you. Now, if you're selling a widget, okay, and the widget is, here's my widget, here's a Facebook ad, here's a picture of the widget, do you need the widget? Well, then that's different. But if you're running a company like mine, or certainly in the beginning, whenever you're first starting a company, you are the brand, you are the company. And even now, I still am the company. Like, this kind of teaching that I'm doing here, this is my superpower, okay? So I use my superpower to sell. And what I have going for me is I'm extremely knowledgeable. I'm extremely enthusiastic. I love talking to people. I love teaching. And I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about changing people's lives. And so you have to learn to sell in order to be successful. What would be the third piece of advice that I would give to people? Don't collaborate. So the third piece of advice I would give you for growing your business, or one of the mistakes that I made, and I only made it once, right? But I was going to say don't collaborate, but it's more than that. It's not don't collaborate, because you should collaborate with people as long as it's mutually beneficial, but don't partner up with someone. Don't partner up with someone. That's what I would say. Genuinely, I have seen partnerships over the years fail and fail and fail. I think in the beginning, people partner up with other people because they want to feel safe, because they think, oh, well, you have a strength that I don't have, and I have a strength that you don't have, and so together we can be stronger. Unless the person you're partnering with is your husband or your wife, and even then it can be messy if you, God forbid, you broke up. But unless the person you're partnering with is your husband or your wife, it's very, very difficult to keep that partnership going. And I have seen some really messy breakups from partnerships over the years. What you'll find in a partnership is quite often you both have different views on how you want things done. And usually in a partnership, you have the yin and the yang. So one is usually an opposite of the other. And so you will have someone who wants to go in this direction and the other person wants to go in this direction. You'll have one person that's outgoing and gregarious and chatty and talkative and bullshit like me. And then you'll have the other one who's a little more concerned about what people think and a little more timid and will hold back and doesn't want to go down that route. And so quite often you will clash. So don't think that if you partner with someone, you're going to be stronger. A lot of times people partner with someone because they're afraid to go it alone. They're afraid to go out on their own. But it's honestly one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Be brave. Be brave. Be brave to go by yourself. Be brave to do it by yourself. Be brave to forge ahead, and that you'll learn whatever you need to learn along the way. Sometimes also what you see in partnerships is that one person ends up doing all the work. Not even all the work, but a lot of the work, or far more work than the other person. And so then many months or years or whatever down the line, this person becomes resentful because they're doing most of the work, but they're only getting 50% of the profits. So partnerships can be a slippery slope to being unhappy and having a split in the partnership, which ends up fragmenting the business. I have never taken in my business, I've never taken outside investment. I've never taken a loan from the bank. I've never taken a loan from, apart from the very, very beginning, whenever I first set up my company in the very beginning, I loaned £30,000 from my best friend, and I paid her back within a year. So that's the only loan I've ever taken in my business. And the beauty of my business is I can make decisions quickly. I don't have to consult with anybody. I can pivot whenever I want to. I don't have to consult with anyone on hiring or firing or the money I take out of the business or shareholders or nothing. I have full control, but with full control comes full responsibility. So that would be the last thing I would say. Don't think that by partnering with someone you're going to be stronger, because it's not necessarily true. Okay, that was a very long answer to that question. Let me see what other questions we have got going. Laurie Ailman. Hi, Laurie. How are you doing? I've been a yoga educator for 20 years, running 200-hour teacher trainings. I would like to redirect my focus to working more with existing yoga teachers who need a little polishing on their skills that have not taken my 200-hour training. I have tested it with 5 teachers who benefited so much, so I know there is a need for this service. I got extremely positive feedback. I have not done well with filling the mentorship course though. What would be the best way to bring them in? Facebook group dedicated to teachers with lots of free content, videos on YouTube. Any suggestions would be so appreciated. So, Laurie, the first thing that I would say is you have to find a need that these yoga teachers have. You have to show them, first of all, how you can help them have more of what they want. Polishing their skills and becoming a better yoga teacher in and of itself isn't usually a good enough reason for people to purchase a course. Yoga teachers, like anyone else, want something, right? And what they usually want is to make money. Like, the reason why you guys are all here listening to me is because you want to make more money. Right or wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong. Most people want to make more money. And so yoga teachers want to make more money. So first of all, in order to sell your course, you have to show them how, by polishing their skills, they can make more money. And if you don't know that they can make more money from polishing their skills, then you have to figure out how this can be so. Because even though you tested it on 5 people and they came and they loved it and they got enrolled in it, that's really not a strong market test. And the reason is because whenever people are with you and they're enrolled in it and they're learning from you and they're having that experience, they will walk away saying, oh my God, that was amazing. That was wonderful. It was cracking. Like I absolutely feel different afterwards. It's incredible. But that's after they've been involved with your product. You have to be able to convey that value to them before they purchase. And people do not buy prevention. They only buy cure. And people do not buy a feeling. People buy a measurable result. You want to be able to show them how they can either get more clients, they can get more money, or they can get more adulation. So a lot of people want their friends or their colleagues or their peers to look at them in a certain way, right? They want to raise their profile, if you like. And you have to show them how they can have more of that by purchasing your program. So that is genuinely the first thing that you have to do. You have to figure out what people who take your course are going to have more of. And usually it's money. Sorry, my son was ringing me there. So usually what they want is more money. So you have to show them how they can have more money. What else? Then you have to figure out, once you have nailed down your prospect, right? Once you've absolutely nailed down what it is that your customer is going to get, you have to go about finding these customers, okay? You have to go about conveying your message anywhere that these yoga teachers hang out. So what would I recommend? Well, one of the best ways, genuinely, that you can reach people who would purchase your program or purchase your product is simply just to start talking about it everywhere. So let me tell you what I'm doing inside my business. So the reason why I'm running this free business training is because we are pivoting and trying different ways where we can take this content that I'm teaching to you guys and break it down into smaller content. So we have a goal at the minute of putting out 200 pieces of content a month across YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Twitter, all the different platforms, right? 200 pieces of content is our initial goal. We actually want to get up to 500 pieces of content. This is free content, by the way. So, but we're figuring out our content creation strategy at the minute, okay? How can we record the content? How can we upload the content to drives? How can we have our video editing team edit the content easily? How can we make interesting content? And we are literally just going to push the content out there to the wider audience and see what sticks. Now, what will we eventually do? Well, this business building content that I'm teaching you will eventually filter into Only Fitness. So Only Fitness is free to use, right? It's free to download. There's no barriers to entry. And so my hypothesis is, and I'm totally open to it not going this way or it being wrong, but my hypothesis is by pushing this content out to people through all the different free channels, and then at the end of it saying, oh, and by the way, if you find this interesting, or if you want a business platform where you can start your business, which is completely free, which, you can monetize immediately, which takes 5 minutes to set up, then, just simply download the app Only Fitness and you can start straight away. So this free content is going to filter people into Only Fitness. That's the goal. That's why I'm now starting to teach business. And that's why I'm not asking you to purchase anything or opt in for anything. I'm going to be filtering all this traffic over to Only Fitness. So if you have a product to sell and it's a really good product, you should start talking about it everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Never underestimate the power of simply talking about your program, talking about your product, talking about the benefits of it. It really, imagine if I said to you, I love using this example. I used this in a business course that I ran before. And I said to them, I can't remember what it was. I think I used the example of, I said, imagine if I told you that if you were able to make $1 million by the end of the year, that I would give you 10 million. It's a written, guaranteed contract, right? I'm richer than the Sultan of Brunei. Imagine. And I've said to you, not even 1 million, let's say 100,000, right? Let's make it easy. And I said to you, if you're able to make $100,000 by the end of the year, I'll give you 10 million. Do you think you could make $100,000 by the end of the year? I'd say most people here can make $100,000 by the end of the month if you thought you were going to get 10 million. And if I asked you now, right? Okay, well, what would you do? You'd be like, well, I would just start working day and night. I would, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning like you do, Kim. I would start, creating videos and I would edit them myself. And I would, I would familiarize myself with all the platforms and I would start talking to everybody and I would rent rooms and I would hold seminars and suddenly all the ideas flow, right? Whenever there's a guaranteed return, suddenly all your ideas start flowing. Well, my question is, why are you not doing all that now? Ever think about that? If you put in the work, I guarantee you will be successful. If you put in the work and you never give up and you commit to doing everything that it takes and keeping going for as long as it takes, I promise you will be successful. The problem is most people give up too soon. Most people just aren't committed to the long game. And also because they can't see the reward at the end of it, most people just give up too soon. That's why I offer enormous cash prizes for my shred competitions, because losing body fat is hard, right? Transforming your body is hard and it takes time. Most people give up way before they even, get successful, or way before they ever even get thin. They give up because it just takes too long. So the reason why I offer enormous cash prizes, the biggest cash prize we've ever offered was $100,000 in a 6-month transformation program. The prize fund was $190,000. And we're actually doing another 6-month program, which is opening in March. And the prize fund for that is $100,000, because people can see that, right? In their minds, they can tangibly conceive it. They can watch past winners who have won it, right? And watch the minute that we told them that they, had won it. And then one of the ideas I had was actually to, send a camera crew out and video them afterwards, spending the money or doing things so people could really, become emotionally connected to it. But people will do more for the opportunity to win $100,000 than they ever will towards being fit and healthy. That's what's motivating to people. But the reason why a lot of people aren't successful in business is because they can't see the rewards. What I did before I started my company was I thought of the things that I wanted to do when I was rich. And they included flying my entire family first class to Australia, because we go there all the time because my husband's Australian. And we always had to fly economy. And it was a real luxury. Like, we could never fly business or first class. So I wanted to be able to fly my entire family to Australia first class, which I did. I wanted to be able to book a villa. First of all, it was a suite, and then it was a private villa inside the Marbella Club Hotel in Marbella. And I did that this year. The villas are like 10 grand a night, okay? Like £10,000 a night. And I booked it for 4 nights this year to take my family away for my birthday. And so I have had all of these tangible goals that I could conceivably connect to. My next goal is I want to be able to fly private everywhere. I want to be able to go on vacation and just book and just charter a private jet. Eventually, I want to be able to buy a private jet. Now, you might be like, oh, Kim, that's way out there. Like, there's no way. Like, buying a private jet, that's just way off my radar. Doesn't matter, right? My goals don't have to be your goals, but you have to have something tangible that you can feel in your body, that you're emotionally connected to, that keeps you going through the hard times, because there will be more hard times than there will be good times. But to go back to my original point, which is, if I told you that if you earned $100,000 this year, I would give you 10 million. Like, could you think of all the ways now that you could earn $100,000? I bet you could. So my question is, why are you not doing it? And why you're not doing it is because there's no guaranteed prize at the end of it. But I'm telling you now, there is a guaranteed prize at the end of it if you're just willing to show up and do the work. Because I promise you, if you don't give up, and you read every book that you can read, and you listen to all the podcasts and spend all of your time watching YouTube videos, and you commit to getting up at 4 a.m. and getting those 3 hours of work in like I did before the kids got up, and you just commit to never giving up, you will succeed. But the problem is most people just aren't willing to do what it takes. So that was probably a very unconventional answer to your question, but that's my best answer. Okay. Karina Koplock. My question is, how do I target a market in 2 languages, English and Spanish? I want to penetrate more into the Latin Hispanic population. I am bilingual, so I know doing it in both languages is not an issue. It's more how to market it, or should I first focus on one? So my advice is first focus on one. I'll tell you why. This is something that we've considered doing a lot in the Sculpted Vegan, because we have a massive Spanish community. We actually went as far as having our Butt Camp program completely translated into Spanish, all the ads translated into Spanish, the PDFs, everything translated into Spanish. We were going to launch in Spanish in our programs. But the reason why we didn't is because we realized once we went to do it, and I couldn't have known until I did this, that the infrastructure that we needed would be enormous. I just want to make sure, actually, when I'm talking about this, that you haven't lost my sound. I don't think I have, because my phone, I have my WhatsApp open so I can read the questions. But of course, people keep WhatsApping me, so it keeps making a noise. So we realized whenever we went to launch in Spanish that we would need an entirely new infrastructure. And what that would look like is, like, if we were going to release a Spanish speaking program, well, we would need Spanish speaking customer service, okay? Because we get a lot of customer service inquiries. We would need a Spanish speaking team to answer the questions on the Facebook ads. We would need Spanish speaking coaches to monitor the Facebook groups for the Spanish speaking community. So whenever I began to look at it, I was like, I'm going to need customer service. I'm going to need coaches. I'm going to need Spanish-speaking, forward-facing people in the company. I'm going to need people to translate them. And then it was like, we're going to have subtitles, Spanish subtitles on all the videos, because I'm obviously speaking English in them. And the amount of work that it would have taken to to create a whole new language segue for our company would have been absolutely enormous. And to go back to the previous question, which said, what was one of the biggest mistakes? Diversification. I realized that to do this, we would have to diversify, and it would take bandwidth from my team that we didn't have. So you always have to remember that when you focus on one thing, you're actually sacrificing another. And so I always want to make sure that I'm putting my efforts and the efforts of my team where they are most profitable, because that's the goal of business, is to make a lot of money. So if I had have taken the bandwidth of my team and focused on the Spanish speaking market, it would have taken them away from something else. And at the time, what we were focusing on, we were pretty stretched with the amount of launches we were doing and how the team was working. And so what we were focusing on was extremely important. And so if I had pulled my team and put their efforts over here, that would have taken away from over here. So we would have had to sacrifice something over here. And we realized we just didn't have the bandwidth. Like Jamie, my director of operations, runs the company, okay? She runs all the launches. She runs all the moving parts, all the tech stack, all the technology. And if I had to pull Jamie off what she was currently doing and now give her a whole new project in Spanish, it would have taken really precious time away from other projects. So the reason why we didn't go into Spanish was for that one reason. So my goal, or my advice to you, is focus on whatever language is going to be most profitable for you. Now, English may be more widely spoken, which I think it is, than Spanish. So you might say, okay, well, English is going to be more widely spoken, but what I would look at is, well, what's your competition in the Spanish speaking market? And if Spanish is your mother tongue and you feel more comfortable in that language, then you may be better doing it in Spanish. But definitely I would choose one. I wouldn't do both to start. I would absolutely choose one, and I would focus on that one first. Kelty Warren. How do your kids handle your schedule? My kids already want more of my time, and in a perfect world, I could give that to them. Are your kids still homeschooled, or do they attend a traditional Monday to Friday school? So my kids have always been and still are homeschooled. I never wanted to give the education of my children to anyone else. I never wanted to make anyone else responsible for educating my children, because genuinely, I believe that I am the best person to educate my child. The reason why I decided to homeschool my kids is because I went to a traditional boarding school. Then I went to a very good private school in Belfast. And then I went to university and studied business studies. And I found every academic institution I was in incredibly boring. And all I did was party whenever I was in university, and I literally barely passed my degree. And then I got different jobs after I left university. And whenever I was 37, I became super interested. Actually, it was less than 37. 2011, I became interested in internet marketing. Okay. I didn't turn 37 until 2017. But in 2016, sorry. In 2011, in my mid-30s, early 30s, I became super interested in internet marketing as a way to make money. I taught myself internet marketing through self-directed study, through having a passion for making money and not having to leave my kids, because I didn't want to go back to work. And to be honest, it wouldn't have been profitable for me to go back to work and leave my kids in the care of someone else and have to pay for that. And I definitely didn't want to leave them. Like, I wanted to be at home with them, but I still wanted to create some extra cash for myself. So I taught myself internet marketing and then became a multimillionaire and founded the world's largest online vegan bodybuilding company. Completely self-taught. Now, I did learn from a lot of people, but completely self-directed learning. And I realized that if I can develop a passion for something and then teach myself everything that I needed to know in order to be a multimillionaire, there's no reason why my kids couldn't do that too. And so then I began to study the academical institutions, and I realized schools don't produce entrepreneurs, schools produce employees. And very, very good employees, and employees are necessary. I'm not saying they're not, But if you want your child to be an entrepreneur, don't send them to school, because school kills creativity. Entrepreneurs have to think outside the box, be able to respond quickly to changes in environment, respond quickly to, make changes fast, I guess. I can't think of any other way to describe it, but and school is not a conducive environment for being able to harbor that, being able to foster that in a child, because it teaches them to think inside the box, not to think outside the box. And I know schools, people always get defensive when I talk about this, and they're like, no, schools are different now, and that was whenever you were younger, and they do encourage creativity, and it's genuinely only because if you send your kids to school, you really want to believe this, because you really want to believe you're making the best choice for your child. And here's the thing, you probably are making the best choice for your child based on your situation, okay? And I'm not judging anyone who sends their kids to school. Never. I wouldn't judge anyone for the choices that they make. But don't pretend that it's something it's not, okay? School is a very good babysitting service. Going to college and getting a degree does not guarantee you a good job anymore. The world is changing, and school is completely backward in my opinion. So, just a little rant about school. But how do I manage my schedule? One of the things that is so important, so important, is that you become really, really, really good at understanding your values and what's important to you, and then making time for them. So my business is super important to me. My training is super important to me. My horses are very important to me. And my family is very important to me. Not in any particular order. Well, obviously family first. And so I make time for what's important to me. I make time for my kids. I make time to share interests with them. I make time to spend with them when they need me. And I also then make time for the other things that are in my life. And I'm very careful about how I work that time. The other thing you have to understand is you need to know how to measure your success in something. A lot of people don't think about what their definition of success is. Whenever my kids were really young, my definition of success for my kids was never what most people's definitions of success was. So because my kids never went to school, it was never like, oh, she's getting an A in math, or oh, she's really excelling in dance or ballet, or oh, my son was picked for the rugby team. A lot of people's measurement for success for their kids is very externally led, right? It's societally led. It's what society says makes a good citizen. So your child is popular in school, and they were chosen, to represent the school at an event, or they were chosen to be a prefect or valedictorian, or they were chosen for the rugby team, or they're, excelling in their studies. So all of these things are what people measure success. I never measured success in that way for my kids. I measured success in the things that were important to me, that I believed would stand them in good stead moving through their life, right? Getting picked for the rugby team, I don't believe really is going to be like a good measurement for success in the future, unless you intend to be a professional rugby player. So what was it for me? Well, I wanted to make sure that for my kids, they could, can they read, write, and do basic arithmetic? And not in terms of like, what is Pythagoras' theorem or, algebra, but do they know how to manage money? Do they know how to transfer money? Do they know how to work out percentages of things? Do they know how to, do they know what interest is? Do they know how things are bought on hire purchase, how mortgages are bought? Like, do they have basic money management skills from a very young age? From a very young age, I gave my kids, as soon as they were old enough to have a bank account, they got a bank account, each and every one of them, with their own cash card. They always had access to my credit cards and my PayPal accounts. They used to transfer their own pocket money to themselves every single week, and they had to manage their money. So I was always like, can they manage money? Can they, read and write? Like, what else do you really need apart from reading and writing, unless you're going to go into a certain profession like the law or, medicine or whatever? Are they loving and kind human beings? Do they have good values? Do they understand what stealing and lying it is and why it's bad? Do they understand themselves? Do they have good emotional health? Are they self-aware? Not self-obsessed, but self-aware in terms of, do they understand how their actions affect others? Do they understand their body and how to keep it healthy? Do they understand nutrition and, why it's important to keep their body healthy? Do they know how to go and get information if they have a problem? Do they know where to go for information, whether that's a person or a mentor or a friend, whether that's Google? Do they, when they have a problem, do they know how to solve it? So these were always my measurements for success for my kids. And I spent time with them to assess how well they were doing based on these measurements. And as long as they were happy and healthy and self-aware and aware of other and loving and gentle and kind and humanitarian and non-violent, and they knew how to go and look for information when they had a problem, I believed I was doing okay. And so that's how I measured whether I was spending enough time with them or not. Did they come to me when they had a problem, which they always do? Do I have an open and honest relationship with them? Yes, I do. Am I their best friend? Yeah, I'm all of my kids' best friend, because they've no fear of telling me anything, because there's no punishment in our house. There's no punishment at all. There's punishment in integrity, as in like cause and effect, but there's no arbitrary punishment. They've never been punished, put on the naughty step, sent to their rooms, yelled at, shouted at. They've never in their lives had anything taken off them as a punishment. They haven't needed to, because we've always worked with them and parented in a completely different way. So this is a very roundabout answer to your question, but basically you have to ask yourself, you won't feel any guilt if you know that you're doing a good job. But how will you know you're doing a good job? Oh, if you have standards, if you have measurable standards that you have set for yourself and your family and your kids, and are you measuring regularly whether you're achieving those standards or not? I have standards in every single area of my life, even my relationship with my husband, with my body, with, I have goals for everything. So whenever you have goals for yourself and you can measure whether or not you're achieving those goals, there's no room for guilt about whether you're spending enough time with your kids or not. Sometimes it's good for your kids not to spend a huge amount of time with you, because it makes them more resilient, like helping your kids is good, but sometimes not helping them and just making them go and do it themselves is better for them than you doing it for them. Very quick example about this, my daughter the other week rang me and said, oh, can I order this thing for my friend for her birthday? And I said, yes, of course. She said, it's personalized, but I can get it in 24 hours. I said, that's fine. So she ordered it, and then she rang me and she said, oh my God, like it says it's going to come in 4 to 7 days, but her birthday's, in 2 days. I thought it was coming tomorrow. What do I do? And I said, I'm really sorry, sweetheart, but I'm just about to go into a meeting. I can't help you with this. You're going to have to figure it out. She's just turned 14 last week. She was like, oh, okay, no problem. So anyway, I said to her that night, oh, by the way, did you get the problem sorted? She said, yeah, she said, I found the number on their website. I picked up the phone and I rang them. I explained the problem. They told me that normally it's 24 hours, but because it's personalized, it was going to take longer. But they said that they couldn't, do anything about it. They couldn't make it come any quicker, but they were going to try and expedite delivery. It's going to be here in 3 to 5 days. She said, so I just told, Amy that, I'm really sorry her present was late. I just, took responsibility. She said I should have ordered it earlier, but I forgot. And she said she was fine to wait. And I was like, good girl. Like, she solved that problem. She just turned 14. And rather than it being, Mom, what am I going to do? And I could have stepped in and solved that problem for her. I could have had Natalie, my PA, solve that problem for her. But I thought, no, I just give it back to my kids. I'm like, if you really can't figure it out, I'll help. Like, I'm never unavailable. I'm always available. But I just put it back to them and I say, why don't you try and figure it out? And they always do. And sometimes they have like a strop with me, or they huff, or they throw a tantrum because they want mommy to help, because they think that if they create a problem, I'll do it for them, and they think that'll be easier. And that might be easier in the moment for me to stop them having a tantrum, but it won't be easier for them in the long run, because creating them or helping them be purposeful adults and great problem solvers is going to be much more beneficial for them in the long run. So there you are. Guys, I'm really sorry, but I've actually run out of time because I have to have another meeting this evening. So I apologize that we didn't go for the full hour, but hopefully you found this helpful. And I know I talk a lot about the questions, and I would love to be able to talk a little less. but I don't seem to be able to, so I'm really sorry. So anyway, let me know in the comments if you're actually enjoying this or not. I'm sorry I didn't take any comments today either. Let me know if you're enjoying kind of this style of teaching, or whether you'd like me to have a bit more, strategy wise, or teach more master classes. I could actually teach some master classes in here if you wanted as well, on very specific topics. So if that's interesting, let me know. I'll actually maybe run a poll in the group, and you can tell me if you'd be interested in master classes and what you'd be interested in. And yeah, we'll take it from there. So thank you so much for showing up, and I'll see you next week, same time, for another Q&A. And we'll post a graphic so you can ask your questions. Make sure you do ask your questions, and I will catch you next week in another live session. Thanks so much for being here. Hope you're all well, and I will catch up with you all soon. Have a great rest of the day wherever you are. Big kiss from me to you. Okay, bye.